am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to dye 2 t-shirts with Tulip One Step tie-dye. But instead of mixing it in the bottles that come with the kits, I am going to use the dry powder and sprinkle it onto these shirts to create some kind of pattern. This is a technique that I love to do with yarn, but isn't something I've tried on fabric yet. So I am really excited to try this on t-shirts and to play with color. The 3 colors that I will be using today are orange, red, and black. Each of these I just used 1 packet of the dry powder. I've already used it on some yarn, but it can go a long way. And when I'm playing with dry powder, I like to wear a dust mask, just to make sure I don't inhale any particles as an irritant. But it's just a precaution I like to take. Since I do a lot of dyeing and work with a lot of powders, it is handy. Alright, so I think at first I considered going, oh funny, as I moved these over I got some powder up there at the top of the shirt. I considered initially doing some kind of all over random pattern, but I think I might want to do sort of a fade. So I'm going to start with the orange sort of at the top and just sort of sprinkle it in a line across these shirts. And I'm not worried about covering the entire shirt, and I am going to do some light coverage on the back. I'm just using my fingers and taking a pinch of dye, sort of sprinkling it in between my fingers. I found that these colors do tend to spread out a fair amount, but I'm not sure what it'll do on a t-shirt. So, and I'm also not entirely sure how well the color penetration will be towards the back either. Okay, now I'm going to sort of fold those in on themselves. Oh, I guess I'm getting color on the back. That's okay. Again, I haven't tried this before, but I think that it should be some fun and give us some fun effects. And these are colors my kids really like too. Yeah, I'll let the whole arm go orange. So you could do this lighter or heavier, but it won't be as even as the coverage would be if you were using just the bottles and doing this flat. And so when I say a fade, this is more of like a stripe, but you can see that there is some crossover. It's not really going to be an ombre, but it's not a clean line. You can see some of the powder coming down. I'm already digging this a lot. So I'm unsure if we are going to get a paler color on the back. Oops, I know that we get really good coverage when I do this with yarn and it goes through a couple layers. So I'm expecting it, as it dissolves, to go through to the other side. But I'm curious how much of this more splotchy pattern will remain when we're done, or versus like versus getting sort of like an all over stripy color. The red, and now the black, which you should be careful because I don't have quite as much of it left. Okay, this is looking really, really cool. This is really, really fun. Should have double checked the amount of powder I had before I started. But that is okay. This is all playing with color, and it's fun to experiment. So it's helpful to keep your fingers dry so you can deposit the powder onto the shirts. But it also, my fingers are damp from when I've touched the shirts occasionally, and so that isn't a huge problem. And using just a tiny bit more of the black. I'm saying, I think this looks pretty cool. I know that when the black breaks, you sometimes can see a little bit of yellow, but let's see. Oh, this is cool. Now, I am going to go ahead and let this sit for about 20 minutes to let the dye sort of soak into the shirts a little bit. And then after that, you sort of have two choices. You could flip it over and add some more color to the back. You could wrap it up and let it sit for 24 hours before washing it. Or you could steam it. I have found that the tie-dye actually sets really nicely in a steamer basket, and I happen to have a dedicated dye pot that I don't use for food. So after 20 minutes, I'm going to clean up the surface. I'm going to wrap up these shirts and steam them in my steamer basket to set the color. I wanted to give a close-up of what's going on with the black, but you can see in addition to the black color, there's like red and yellow speckles. I think some of the red might have come from the shirt from my sprinkling, but some of the yellow definitely is more yellow than the orange we used. The colors have already spread out a lot. I'm gonna flip it and, oh, look at the back. That is cool. That is really, really, really cool. I'm folding them in on themselves just because I know that there is, oh, that's awesome, that there is still some extra powder on the surface, on the work surface, and I do want to wipe that up. And again, you really are not limited to steaming. I just have found that it can help the colors set a little faster. So I'm going to wrap this up and place it in my steamer pot. There will likely be some color transfer as I wrap this up, but I'm not going to worry about that too much. One of the perks of doing something a little more experimental is that you are willing to see what kinds of fun results you get. I'm wrapping this up to go in my steamer basket for 30 minutes. But if you don't have a steamer basket and you prefer to let this sort of sit at room temperature for overnight, this is my dedicated dye steamer basket, and I am popping this in for 30 minutes. I have found that heating cotton yarn dyed with this tulip tie-dye powder gives a very, very close result to letting it sit overnight. So this is a bit faster, and you know, I can take care of it all in one day. So I'll be back when we're done steaming, and then we'll remove our shirts. The 30 minutes are up, nice and steamy in here. I'm going to remove the shirts and place them in just a dollar store casserole pan. The colors have spread out a lot, but I'm curious to see just how much. This looks beautiful. Now I'm going to let them cool a little bit before we open them up and start washing the shirts. The shirts are still a little warm, but I'm really excited to see what they look like. So let's open them up. Ooh. Oh, there's the front. You see lots of little specks in that color, and we got some it's lighter on the back, but we did get some good color penetration there. We didn't need to flip it over, which was nice. And again, here's the other one, the front and the back. Oh, that's cool. I'm curious, since this time is the shirt, how much color will rinse out versus how true these will stay. These tulip dyes are intended for cotton t-shirts like this. I am expecting, you know, a lot of color to rinse out. We did use the dry powder, but it's always interesting to see how the final colors remain. And as I said, this is the first time that I have tried steaming shirts I've used with this powder. But I'm really happy how the colors spread, but you can still see some specks from the powder itself. So at this stage, I am going to rinse these until the water starts to clear. I'm not going to worry about having it completely clear as I would with yarn, because then I'm going to put them in through the washing machine a few times to help remove extra color. So let the rinsing continue. And once the shirts are done, I will come and show you what they look like. These shirts are even better than I had hoped. The colors didn't spread out too much, and you still get some of the splotched and speckled effect from the dry dye powder. If you look closer, you can see some of the multicolored dots, especially around the black. I think some of the red splotches came from the actual red that we used, but some of these yellows may have come from the black. I don't really see any orange down there, but there definitely are some yellow splotches from the orange as well. So by doing this, you can really see some of the breaking of colors, and that can just add another element of interest to your project. The backs of the shirts have a reasonable amount of color, but significantly less than the front. If I fold over one of the shirts, you can really get a sense of the vibrant colors on the front side versus these paler tones on the back. So if you wanted to prevent there being any color on the back, you could put some kind of, well, maybe cardboard wouldn't work to roll it up, but maybe you could put some kind of plastic or something in between the layers. If you were to add the color maybe a little lighter on both sides, you could get some even color penetration without overdoing the front and losing some of this really fun speckly fade. I wanted to give you a closer look at the speckled effect. This is unlike anything that I have achieved with yarn. When I use the dry powder, the colors tend to spread out a bit more. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and thank you so much for joining me for this little tie-dye experiment. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe to the ChemKnits Tutorials YouTube channel. Most of my videos feature dyeing yarn, but I really love to experiment and play with different methods of applying color to all types of fiber. Thank you so much for watching. And now, because you've been so patient, I will bring you a little clip of my lovely children playing wearing these shirts.
Hi, I'm Lucas from ChemKids. And make sure you watch more ChemKids videos on Netflix. On Netflix.
No, on YouTube.
On YouTube. Yeah, on YouTube. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.